one of the problems that I encountered when I was a school counselor is that kids were overdoing it. So they're trying way too much to fill in their resume with all sorts of things, and most of them don't necessarily align with who you are. I would have kids taking all these pre-AP and AP courses, 7 courses, and then they have football or band, and then they had to come home and do homework until midnight, wake up at 5 in the morning to go to band practice. And this is every day. One of the greatest advice that I got in college admissions from college advisors, in particular the Ivy League schools, it was,
Welcome to From Classroom to Campus, where we have open-minded conversations about what's going on in education. Our goal is to help showcase the incredible work happening in schools, celebrate transformative teaching, and shift the focus towards the powerful ways educators change lives and prepare students for the future. This is episode number 1, From Start to Submit, Guiding Students Through College Admissions. I'm your host, Philip Bates, and with me, as always, is my wonderful producer, Megan Blessing. Hello, Megan.
Hello, Philip.
All right. My guest today is a modern-day Renaissance man and education warrior. Similar to C-3PO, he speaks 1 million or so different languages. Growing up, his parents were doctor missionaries, which required the family to live all over South America. When he was in high school, his family moved to the States, where we, of course, welcomed him with open arms. He learned English through traditional ESL programs, learned the culture, and along with his 2 siblings, eventually excelled. His 2 siblings are doctors, and he also holds a PhD. Pretty impressive stuff. He's an accomplished musician and plays in multiple bands, and for his side hustle, owns a web design company. He currently works in the Dallas Independent School District, side by side with the police chief, doing all kinds of amazing work to help support students and the community. But on today's podcast, we're going to focus on his many years of experience as your wonderfully talented and committed neighborhood school counselor. And he's going to share with us his wealth of knowledge and years of experience guiding students and parents through the college admissions process. Welcome to the UWorld studio, Dr. Tiago Oliveira.
thank you for having me. What an introduction.
Hey, man. You like it?
Should have you tag along throughout my life.
I'll just walk behind you and introduce you.
Cheerlead.
Well, man, let's start with this. How long have we known each other?
It has to be over 15 years,
Yep.
something like that.
Yep.
It's been
Your
a long time.
wife worked for me
That's right.
when I was an elementary
Ryan
principal.
worked for you as an elementary school principal, and your reputation was renowned.
Oh, geez.
You were just an amazing principal. And then,
Well, and I remember the day that I called you to come to the junior high and be a counselor for me. I was at a restaurant and you called and I was super nervous because I really wanted you to say yes. And you said yes.
yeah.
And then you ended up going to the high school with me. So pretty
Yeah.
awesome. You've known each
Yeah,
other for a long time.
you were probably the best principal I've ever worked for. Just kind of exciting, full of passion. I would say that out of all the leaders that I've worked for, you had this kind of great combination of having high expectations and then also inspiring, right? Like usually you have principals who are either or, like they expect much, but they're not very inspiring, or they're very inspiring, they don't have a set of high, excellence. You had it both, man.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate it. Your check's in the mail. So thanks for all that. Well, I know you well. Obviously, my audience doesn't know you well. And I'm excited for them to get to hear all about you. So we're going to kick it off with a game. Okay. And this game is called Hook, Line, and Thinker. So here is your Hook, Line, and Thinker bowl.
Okay.
And if you shake that up, and then you're going to pull out 3 questions and answer them.
All right, so we'll pull them all 3
Sure.
at once, and then I'll give you back the...
All right. We got to keep this safe. Need it for
All right.
episode 2.
First one. If you could go back and give your teenage self one piece of advice, what would it be? Man, now that's a tricky one, okay? Because if I go back to my younger self and tell him something, number one, would he listen? Probably not. But if he did, and it would change my life for the better or worse, then it would be a different person than I am today. I wouldn't even recognize myself, right? So it's almost like all the bad decisions I made me who I am today. right? It's like that grandfather paradox is called, right? So I would say I would probably tell him, you're gonna do great.
Yeah,
You're gonna like what you're gonna end up. You're
Spoken
gonna do,
like a true school counselor.
You're gonna do fine. Yeah, just don't mess it up too bad.
Nice.
So that's what I would say. You're gonna be fine. If you weren't in education, what do you think you'd be doing? I would probably be doing your job, Bates, right now.
Really?
No, I'm kidding. I would do something like creative in the creative arts. Either marketing or something in technology, or I could be a professor, teaching psychology, and that would be fun to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a Renaissance man. You do a lot of things.
What's a book or training you think everyone in education should experience? Actually, the last book I ever read was the book you recommended.
Okay.
And it kind of messed me up pretty bad. Okay. It's the Comfort Crisis. Mm-hmm. And it is a great book because it talks about that, the struggles that we have, especially, we are in a world now where, like, for example, we work less than our parents worked, mm-hmm. right? Quantifiably. And then our parents probably worked less than their parents, and so far and so on. And so I think that our comfort has gotten bigger. Yeah. And so little bit of discomfort makes us anxious, right? Mm-hmm. And because we haven't built a tolerance like our parents did or our grandparents did. And I think in education is the same. It's just there seems to be this weakening. It seems like kids are much more anxious than ever before. Depression is high. And so just remembering that to combat that, we need to almost put ourselves in uncomfortable situations volitionally. Like we have to, it can't be imposed on us. Yeah. It's not like, well, I already have a bad boss. No, it's more like you have to, through discipline, like I say, working out, right? There's a certain discomfort in that, and that's good. Yeah. And it would build tolerance. And I think when you build tolerance for discomfort, you can also battle anxiety in that regard too. Yeah. So, and I think that speaks quite a bit in education.
Well done, sir. All right, you were done with hook, line, and thinker. First question, you ready? We're going to dive into college admissions. You've got a nice hat on, by the way.
Thank you.
People can't see it unless they're watching live.
I appreciate you guys letting me.
It is a very nice hat. But the hat you're wearing today is, of course, your school counseling hat. So
this is actually my Rockstar hat. Yeah.
Rockstar hat.
Rockstar, yeah.
And
I do have a school counselor hat. I didn't bring it.
Okay, nice. So what's your role, as a high school counselor when it comes to college admissions? What do you think your role is as a counselor?
What is the hat analogy is apt, right? Because we do wear quite a bit of hats in education, in school counseling. And school counselors are really like the bridge between, parents and students and then administration. We provide resources, we're guides, right? And in the college admissions in America has become really, it's a little different than, let's say, college admissions internationally, right? Like when you go to college, let's say in Europe, the expectations is not like it is in America where, well, goodbye and good luck. And nothing's gonna be the same when you return from college. You're really not gonna move back in with us, and so it really is a rite of passage here in America, right? And because of that, it's filled with anxiety and angst, and the process is this process of self-exploration and figuring out who you are. And so the counselor then becomes a guide, right, through this tumultuous time in your life. And very important, from 9th grade all the way to 12th, we help you, not just academically, but emotionally. We help you figure out what is it that you want to do, what brings you, like what makes you come alive. And then now let's find opportunities that align with all of that, right? Who you are, what do you want to be, and then now let's find your path in the options of college.
So that's what it is, and that's your role, and you were fantastic at it. But I think there's some misconceptions that people have about the school counselor's role in college admissions and that sort of thing. What are some misconceptions that you've heard or seen or maybe had some conversations about with parents?
About the counseling role?
Yes, or about what you shouldn't be doing or what you don't do.
In the college admissions process?
Yes.
Okay. So, yes, I mean, college, it's difficult, right? The problem is that we have so much information available, and what kids are doing lately is they are overdoing it, right? And so they're trying way too much to fill in their resume with all sorts of things, and most of them don't necessarily align with who you are, right? The college admissions process is ideally is supposed to be a place where you showcase who you really are. Yeah. You know, what colleges want is transparency, and what happens is as you're showcasing who you are, you tend to exaggerate, or you're not really coming out authentically of your struggles and how you got to where you are and what your strengths are and so forth. And so one of the things is you don't have to put your best foot forward. You want to be who you truly are,
So your best foot forward is who you truly are.
Yeah, you want to be authentic, right? And so if you are authentic, you will find a good fit for you, a good college that fits who you truly are, right? One of the fallacies, one of the problems that I encountered when I was a school counselor is that kids were taking all these AP classes, right, and doing all these extracurricular activities and doing all these internships because they were just filling up a list of checklists instead of really understanding existentially, like, who am I? What am I good at? What is my role it's going to be in society? And spending time exploring that instead of just trying to fill out a checklist of do's and don'ts.
So when you encounter a student, they come into your office and they say, hey, I've got all these things. Is this long enough list? Is this a, extensive enough list? And you're kind of understanding them, and you know that maybe that they're not being true to who they are. What advice or kind of guidance do you give them?
Well, it's giving permission to be honest. It's saying it's okay. I mean, it's okay to tell them some of the struggles we encountered in 9th grade, right? And some of the struggles that happened in 10th, especially in your essay, right? Because your essay has become really one of the few ways that college admissions can see who you are, right? And you can maybe even explain some of your grades, right? And you know what? Reading some of those essays, and I read almost all of them, those are the ones that stand out. It's the ones that are authentic, and you can read it. It's right off the bat. You're like, wow, this kid is has gone through struggles and overcome those struggles. And then sometimes in some of the essays, they would say, well, now I don't struggle anymore, right? And I'm like, no, I don't think that's how it works. We're going to struggle, and it's okay to say, I'm still figuring it out, right? Like, I haven't overcome my anxiety, right? Or I haven't overcome, my depression even, right? Or so it's okay to say, I'm still figuring it out in your essays, and let people know who you are. And I think you'll be surprised that the outcome is better than you anticipated.
So staying with students, like we talked about, they're juggling a lot of different things. They want to put a lot of different things on their essay, or really their application, I guess I should say. How do you help them balance between academics, extracurriculars, all the different pieces?
That's difficult, right? For one, good guidance in what certain courses require, right? When you're filling out your schedule, like let's say your 6-year plan, right? And you're taking all these pre-AP and honors courses in middle school, and let's say you're taking AP classes and pre-AP classes in high school, and you're trying to play the GPA game, right? I want to be in the top 6% so I can get automatically admitted at UT and A&M and all this. It's a whole monopoly game, right? And it can get overwhelming and stressful, and there's no surprise that these kids are filled with anxiety, right, through this process, because it takes the humanity out of it all, right? Where really you have to go back to reminding kids of this is let's say an AP class is about an hour of homework a day, depending on the teacher, depending on but roughly 30 to 45 minutes of homework or so forth. So plan accordingly. If you're going to do 7 AP courses, do you even have hours after school? I mean, I would have kids, taking all these pre-AP and AP courses, 7 courses, and then they have, football practice or band, and then they had to come home and do homework until midnight, wake up at 5 a.m. to go to band practice, at 5:30. And this is every day, right? And so we would have conversations about, is this survival?
Yeah.
Or are we thriving right?
Yeah.
I mean, so we want to be challenged, but it's also, is this too much? One of the greatest advice that I got in college admissions was from college advisors, in particular the Ivy League schools. It was the best advice that they told us to tell the students was, hey, find what they love and then go deep into that area, right? It's not so much deep and wide, right? It's more about depth.
Yeah.
Find what you love and then go deep. And you don't have to go deep in every area, right? It's not like nobody's expected to be good at everything, not just good, excellent at everything. You don't need 4 or 5 AP courses in social studies if you don't love history, right? If that's not your thing, or sciences, or the maths. Pick something that you love and then go deep in that. And not just deep academically, like deep in like socially, right? Volunteer in those areas, extracurricular, right? And so find alignment, right? And I know that's difficult to ask at an 8th grader or 9th grader, right? What do you want to do? Figure it out now, right? But because
explore.
And I think part of that is also our failure as educators, is that we don't spend enough time trying to help students figure out who they are, right? What is it? What makes you come alive is what great question you could ask a kid. What is it?
Love
now,
that.
of course, the answer is changes every 6 months, right? But still, like the more you ask that question, the more the student starts to, brainstorm about what is it that I love, what brings me passion, and then as a parent, then you want to dig into that, right? What is it? So then we're gonna go all in on that, and so I think that's good advice.
Speaking of supporting students in AP, I'm about to tell you about a tool that saves teachers time and supports student success. Imagine a high school classroom where teachers have the time and resources to create engaging lessons and where every student is on a path to success. What if this classroom could be a reality? UWorld's courses for AP and online preparation for the ACT and SAT exams give teachers the tools to save time while building confidence and ability. Teachers deserve resources designed to deepen understanding, promote retention, and make even the most complex subjects easy to grasp. Content created by teachers for teachers. Content that doesn't just inform, but inspires, filled with engaging visuals and interactive elements that spark curiosity and a love for learning. Because at UWorld, we believe education isn't just about getting into college. It's about unlocking a world of opportunities. Turn your what if into what's next. Discover why UWorld is the content teachers love and the success students deserve. Visit collegereadiness.uworld.com to learn more. So let me ask you this. I've got a 17-year-old. He's a junior. He's in the whole picking colleges. He's got some soccer stuff going on too. So he's got lots of stuff going on. What advice? You've got 2 younger kids.
Yeah.
They're not quite in that time period yet. But what's your advice or guidance to students on when to start, really thinking about college and doing specific things for admissions?
Right. So the process starts as early as their voice starts cracking. Okay. Right. So right when the puberty starts to kick in, now we are transitioning into adulthood. So now you got to start thinking like an adult as quickly as we can. Right. And so this process begins in 7th grade, typically 6th, 7th grade. Yeah. And we need to start figuring out from your course selection. Right, so academically, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, you start to you choose courses. 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. You start, figuring out your 6-year plan. But for a junior, junior year is the hardest year, in my opinion, in high school. Right, it's also the last year, GPA-wise, where that matters for academic admissions. Right, and so there's a lot on a junior.
Sure.
It's also the year where you have the most available AP courses, junior year, right? So now you have a plethora of potential courses you can take that give you quite a bit of value in your GPA. It is your last year, so so kids tend to then put more load on themselves than they should sometimes, right? And so it's stressful, right? And then really you're starting to take your ACTs, right? Junior year. And so you're starting to get some good news. Sometimes you get some bad news. And now all that emotion starts to come through. You start visiting colleges in the spring of junior year. And so by the end of junior year, from I would say January of junior year all the way till December of the end of your fall of senior year, that is where the money's made.
Yeah,
right?
It's the golden time, right?
It's the golden time.
Yeah.
All right. So whatever you did before, now we buckle down. Okay, January to December, and then after December you can rest.
You can finish off strong, right?
That's right. Because at that point, it's you probably already know where you're gonna go.
Yeah.
They already accepted you, denied you, and it's the spring of senior year.
Sure. It's interesting. What kind of resonates with me, what you're talking about being a parent, is having conversations about college admissions, having conversations about college happens even before high school.
Right.
And I think that's critical. Some advice I got a long time ago and have used is if I'm at a new city or a city with my family, swing by a college and do a quick college visit. Even if your kids are 10, 11, 12, because they get to kind of see what that looks like and what does a college student look like and what is a quad and what's the library look like. And so you kind of spark that excitement about college.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's parents out there who are worried about their junior or their senior because they may not be like mature enough to handle independence, right?
Yep.
Like I'm sure right now there's people listening going, "Yep, you need to be listening to this YouTube right now, this podcast," because it is. I think kids, this generation of kids currently, they're completely different than our generation, right? And so. They're not exposed to the same problems that we had and the troubles that we had, with pre-internet, generation. And so everything is easier. And everything's been taken care of them, And so when you lack problems to solve, you struggle to solve problems, right? You start to lose the ability to solve problems efficiently too, right? And so, so now there's this big problem called college. Right? Go figure it out, but you haven't had any problems quite like it, right?
So what's the role of the parent to help prompt their child to work through those problems and challenges?
Yeah, provide problems.
Okay. So outside of just college admission stuff.
Yeah, right. I mean, allow them to solve problems and fail.
Okay. Right? Yeah.
It's okay. As long as the failure is not, life-threatening. Right?
Yeah.
But don't rescue them from every problem, right? Okay. Let them solve it and then let them face the consequences of that bad solution.
So I'll throw you a scenario. You've got maybe a student who's a 10th grader heading into their junior year, doesn't want anything to do, says they want to go to college, doesn't want anything to do with the academic side of things. Yeah. And the parent comes to you and says, "Hey, T, my child says they want to go to college, but they're not doing anything to show me or anybody else that they are college material or wanting to go to college. And I'm pushing and I'm pushing, and they're not receptive to that."
Yeah, so we have to figure out what the root cause is, right? And sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not, right? But typically, a lack of motivation in a teenager is a sign of anxiety. It's a manifestation of anxiety, right? And so something else is going on that is robbing them of that energy to do something and do it well. Well, what is it? What's going on? And so, sometimes the parent knows right away, and sometimes you need some help. A counselor could be that person that can say, "Hey," but it's also the research shows that an involved parent is going to more likely or not have a kid who meets expectations, right? When you have a low, a parent who has low involvement in their education, right? Then the kid is typically going to, this is a principle, like kids will rise to the level you set, right? As far as expectations. If it's low expectations, that is as far as they'll jump,
Sure.
right? So a parent needs to be involved.
Have you seen situations where maybe they're too involved and maybe they've taken on too much?
Yeah, there's a large, not a large percentage, but there's a good percentage of parents who are anxious themselves, right? Mm-hmm. They have their own anxiety and they're manifesting that into their children, or they have expectations that they didn't meet, that they want their kids, every parent wants their kids to be better than them, right? Mm-hmm. And so then you're like, well, you're going to be what I never was, And so that burden that the kid now has to carry, right? And so, well, you got to deal with some issues, parent. But because what's going to happen is just cause a drift between you and your child. And whatever is it that you're wanting them to do, it's only going to be, the opposite. And so a parent, once a kid becomes a teenager, your role starts to change as a parent. You cannot force them to do anything. Try it, Really, you are another guide, just like a counselor is. You're another mentor. Yeah. And your role is to walk alongside them through this path, an anxious path, but a path nonetheless, and it's your job to build trust and be a guide to your child. It's too late at this point. Now we're just guiding you.
Sure, absolutely. I've got a 20-year-old. I'm sure folks out there listening have, children that age that college wasn't for them.
Right.
And that's a hard thing.
Yes.
And so when you're talking to high school students, I know this whole episode's about college admissions, all that good stuff. But when you had students walk into your office and say, hey, Dr. T, they call you Dr. T? What do they call you?
Yeah.
Dr. T?
Yeah,
okay.
Dr. T.
I'm going to start calling you Dr. T just for fun every once in a while. But anyways, when they would say, hey, Dr. T, I don't want to go to college, or I don't think I want to go to college, how did you help them navigate that?
Well, the reality is, this is a principle. Of course, there's a huge push to get as many kids through admitted to college as we can, right? And so, with that, the problem is that we weren't doing that enough. And so the problem was, in the past, we were only a few were going to college, and in particular, it was a particular race that was going to college, and the other one was not, right? And so then we said, well, let's get as many people a chance to even think about college. But with that has come a different problem. The problem that we are not pushing kids into college that probably shouldn't go to college, right? And so there might be an overcorrection coming soon. But there is very viable options outside of college, Yeah. Our brains are still this old machine. It hasn't evolved. Our culture has evolved, and technology has evolved way past this machine. And this machine evolved in a system of tribes, right? And so we wanted to belong. It's like very much written in our DNA, in our brain chemistry. Is we want to belong in a tribe, in people. And so we want to find our people, we want to find our role, and then we want to find meaning in that role, and then we want to exercise that role. And roles in those tribes were all valuable. You may be a hunter, you'll be a gatherer. I was a gatherer.
Yeah.
Not much of a hunter, It would be like if I lived back in the day, the hunters come, I'm like, well, welcome everybody. I have some salad for everybody and some tomatoes.
Hey, that's important
You
too.
guys look very tired. But, so it's okay to have a different role.
Sure.
And allow different options for kids that are viable. There's trade schools, and I think, this has been...
Yeah, my daughter, Maddie, she goes to cosmetology school, and she tried the college route. Yeah. And I think that's, challenging for parents is, both her parents are college graduates, and it's like, this is what you're supposed to do. And there was a time where all of her friends were doing that. And that seemed like what she wanted to do. Well, then she tried it and wasn't successful in it. And I mean, you probably got some good insight on this. There's a little bit of a mourning that takes place.
Yeah, grieving.
There's some grieving where, and it sounds bad, and I don't want to obviously knock the incredible professions or the incredible people that don't go through college, but not going through college when you kind of think that your child is going to go that route. How do you kind of counsel parents through that when you're talking to a parent and they're frustrated by that, or they're maybe they're mourning that a little bit?
Well, I mean, they could make more money than you.
Sure.
Right?
Hopefully so.
So, I mean, some of these professions pay very well. And not only that, if our goal is for our kids to truly manifest who they truly are, right? Forcing them to do something that is not in there and it doesn't align with that is a detriment and a waste of money. And there's a lot of money to go to college too. And so, I think it's a mind shift, and there is a grieving. I agree. And it does hurt, right? Because we have expectations. And again, we want our kids to be better than us. And so when that doesn't align, like for example, my son he's not enjoying soccer anymore, right? And I'm Brazilian, and so that means he's no longer Brazilian. Okay, I'm just kidding. And so there's a grieving there, right? I know it's not the same, scale as college, but right. But now we want to lean into what he does love, which is theater, believe it or not, And so we're going to lean into that. And so I think as a parent, we have to learn to adapt and be, listening to our kids' heart.
Yeah, I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then leaning into that.
Yeah, that's great. So let's get into, you've mentioned it, anxiety, some of our challenges that our young people are having right now. And that's around college admissions. So we can kind of focus it around there. You've got students that go off to school, and my daughter's noticed it. She's got friends that were so excited to go to University of Arkansas or you name a school, and then they're back at semester, or they're back after a year. And they clearly were intelligent enough to be successful. They were driven. They did great in high school. They were on this amazing path, and somehow the wheels kind of fell off at college, and now they're back at home. What happens there, you think?
Yeah, I think anxiety is increasing in society. We see it in like suicide ideations. We see it in threats. What is anxiety, right? So like it comes from the amygdala, right, in our brain. It's an ancient alarm system that goes off in your brain. And we're really good at detecting threats. Like if you don't detect threat, you die, right? Back in the day. And so it does it in milliseconds. You immediately detect threats. And we do this all the time. We're probably doing it now, right? Like we look at each other and we are really good at recognizing like threats, like through facial expression and nonverbals. And then, of course, there's enormous amount of false positives that happen, right? So your brain may think there's a saber tooth coming, and it's not. It's just a podcast, right? So nothing to be anxious. This is not a life-threatening situation, right?
Sure.
But our brains can't distinguish between what is real or what it isn't, right? And so then it alerts us, and so then everything starts to go black, right? Your heart rate goes up, your hands get sweaty, right? You start to stutter, and so it's a problem. And so what it overtakes your prefrontal cortex, which is your problem-solving, thinking part of your brain. And so how do you deal with false positives? Sometimes the threat is real, but it's rarely life-threatening, right? But you're reacting like it is, right? So what is this? Where is this coming from? And how do we overtake it? And so like the Navy SEALs, for example, what they do is when their amygdala is firing and it's releasing adrenaline, and they have to do something like fine motor skills, right? In a very dangerous, life-threatening situation, and they're going into this. They do breathing exercises right before they go into battle. And this is, it's typically called the square breathing, where you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and then hold for 4 seconds. You do that 4 times.
Sure.
And what it does, it reduces your heart rate, an average about 15 or so beats per minute. And then it allows you enough time for your brain, your thinking brain to take over and think. Because here's the problem with anxiety: you can't be anxious and think at the same time.
Yeah.
You only do one or the other. And so what's happening in our society is we are, due to many causes, social media, the phone, all of these things are creating these false positives, and our brains are responding as a life threat. And so what we need to do is teach kids better, strategies to deal with these false positives, this false alarm that is ringing in your brain.
So if you got a child that you believe in high school is experiencing a lot of anxiety, and you're trying to work on basically coping, ways to cope and kind of, work through those things, are there indicators that would tell a parent, my child's not going to do well in college. I'm about to write this ginormous check for tuition, and they're not going to do well. Have you seen situations like that?
Yes, and the recommendation is to not go yet.
Yeah. Right?
Maybe a community college is a good option. Maybe gap year, but gap year is turning up to be, is increasing every, it's a slow percentage, but it's going up because it's a viable option for kids to work as they figure things out, and then they go to college. Or sometimes there's official programs that they can go for a year overseas, and they travel around while also receiving some education, and then they go officially and admit to a university. And some universities will hold your acceptance as, go to your gap year, we accepted you. But when you're done, you come back. It will delay your admissions for one more year, and you start as a freshman. So there are many options available now that probably weren't available with our parents, right? And so I think that, number one, we need to deal with anxiety. It's a real problem. It's a real epidemic. And I don't think our kids have the tools to battle this false alarm system. Yeah. And number two, we gotta normalize other options.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely got to have you back at some point, and I want you to go through a whole boot camp of things parents can do to help kids kind of cope with this stuff, because we could go on, for a long time about this. One question that I've wanted to ask you, a little bit off the trail of what we've been talking about. Kids are heartbroken when they don't get into the university they want to get into. I mean, it is crushing. And I was doing a speaking engagement recently to a bunch of young people and their parents, and had a young man come up to me, and he hadn't found out yet, but he had his 3 safe schools and his reach school. And for those of you guys don't know, your safe school is, hey, your grades, your GPA, your test scores, you're gonna get in. Yeah. And then your reach school is that school where it's like, well, it's gonna be tight. Hopefully the essay is good. We'll see how it goes. What happens, and his question to me was, what do I do if I don't get into the school I really want to? What do I do? How do I handle it?
Right. So a few things, in the logical side and logistical side. So you want 3 safe schools. It's what I would recommend. 3 50-50 schools and 3 reach schools.
Oh, that's great.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want 9 applications. Now, a lot of it is easier now with Common App. So it's just one click, but we're hoping that the safe schools you get accepted. So it's nice to be wanted, so there's going to be schools that are going to want you. Okay. And then there's that 50-50 where out of the 3, maybe you get accepted once, you get denied 2, and on the reach, you don't get any of those. You get denials on those. Okay. So, so rejection is a painful thing. Okay.
Absolutely.
And where does it come from? Again, going, psychologically here is, think about it. Back in the day, our brains evolved in an ability that we need each other, right? Because we're not cats, right? We're more like dogs. We need one another to survive. To be rejected was death, right? is isolation. You know, there's no safety alone. You don't have food, so forth. So our brains evolved this ability to, when we feel rejected, it triggers this danger. Again, this is anxious. This is amygdala kicking in again. Rejection feels, and actually research shows that rejection can feel physically, like physical pain as well. It's the same area of the brain as you chopping your arm off. You know, it's like firing because it's painful. Why? Again, because it's danger of death, right? And so knowing that, right? So that there's got to be that reaction of, oh my gosh, this is so painful. And then there's the reality, okay? The reality is you got a lot of options, okay? And you'll be surprised. And you don't like that option, but you'll be surprised how much you enjoy it, actually, once you go to that school.
Sure.
Because there is this brand component of college, right? We want to have the Nike shoes, right? And it's nice, but the Reeboks are just as, I mean, you're right, it's just a shoe too, right? And so, like,
I don't know if anybody wears Reeboks
You're
anymore.
right. I wore Reebok pumps back in the day.
We all did.
Again, it's about fit. It's not about the brand. You need to figure out who you are, what is it that you love, and then go find your people. That's what college is. Where are your people? Okay? And if they rejected you, they're probably not your people. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So go find your people. But you can only find your people if you know who you are, right? If you don't know who you are, then you don't know who your people, right, is.
So let them process through that pain, let them process through that heartache, and then shift to, let's go find a school that does want you, that you'd fit in perfectly, and that you're going to love.
Yeah, because some of the reasons kids want to go to that college, they're silly, right? You think about it. Like, there is quantifiably, whenever a football team wins their college football, wins the championship, admission goes up, I don't know, like 20, 40%.
Oh yeah, University of Colorado. Perfect
Right?
example of that.
Just skyrockets.
Yes.
So kids chose to go to college.
Just
not
because they were on game day.
That's right, because they showed up and they have a really good football team. Nothing to do with whether they have the major they want, right? And so, which is fine. Eventually they'll figure it out, even in that university or that setup. But again, it's a better setup for you to align who you are with the choices that you have. And so, yeah.
That's super. All right, so let's look forward a little bit. Just kind of talk about, what can educators and counselors do working together to best support students for college admissions?
Educators?
Yes. So teachers and counselors, how do they have this wonderful relationship to all push at the same direction and help students get into college?
Yeah, I mean, we're all in the same boat together, right? Counselors and teachers and principals, we're all struggling together, right? To try to get these kids through high school. Graduation is our priority, right? I mean, that's goal number one. Let's get them through and graduate.
You got it.
Which is not an easy task.
No, it's not. Not for all of them.
Because you have a whole spectrum of kids and you got to push them all through. And then priority number two is get them to college. And so we all have to work together in every way possible. So, the tension happens. Number one is this, we tend to work in silos, right? It's like, these are my people, the counselors, and these are my people, the science department, right? And it's normal, it's natural. But we have to kind of fight against that and we have to collaborate, right? We have to work together. And you did awesome at that in just collaborating, everybody, just building a culture of brainstorming, sure. Right? Because teachers want different things in high school. They want to expand their program, right? They want to build it up. They want their AP courses and so forth. And so they might want kids in those AP courses. But they may not know that kid's already in 5 other AP courses. Sure. And so there's 6 AP cores, though you may love to have that kid in that class, it may push for that kid to have that class, it's not good for their mental health. Sure. Really, it's not good for any human being to take that many AP courses, right? And so we have to, work together around expectations and the overall health of the student.
Sure.
Because it's way too much for anybody, including a teenage brain that's still forming. They don't have the resources to deal with that.
So it takes a community, and it's tapping into all those resources. Yes. And you had a lot of great conversations with teachers, walking them through, hey, I know you're pushing AP stats on this young man, but he's got all these other things going on, and you see a different side of that student because he comes in your office and you see him anxious, you see him doing some behaviors that are not healthy for him. And you can have that conversation with that teacher of, hey, let me let you in on some other information. Right. And I think that's important. Yes. And vice versa. I mean, teachers, have great things to share with counselors.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, teachers also, they care about, 100%. The anxiety and mental health of students. And they see it. They see it every day, how it's getting worse. And so certainly just a little bit of context, that's all you need. Sure. And we can accommodate.
So one of the big things, and one of the reasons I'm so passionate about starting this podcast, is I love to hear from educators and about, the stories that, really inspire other educators. And I'd love if you've got maybe a story or two about you helping a student, get into this, their school, their dreams, or you helping a student work through something. You've impacted so many students out there. You got a couple of good stories for us?
Man, do you remember when we were at middle school? I'm not gonna say names, but there was a student there who I worked very closely with, and he got his girlfriend pregnant in middle school. Okay, very young. I even went to Parkland Hospital for the delivery. It's crazy. Actually, my first job was take care of you're a school counselor. This was when I was in another middle school before yours. And it was like, you got 2 students who are pregnant and you got to counsel them. Good luck. Do you know how to do that? I'm like, no clue. I was in elementary school counseling before, so I'll do my best. But it was the struggle then, and once he went to high school, to get him to graduate. I remember as a junior, he came to me and, he was crying, I was crying. And he was like, I am struggling. School has never been easy for me. He was in SPED and so forth. And he's like, somebody has offered me a construction gig for, I think at that time it was like $30 an hour.
Yeah.
He looked at me and he said, do you think you can promise me that if I go to college and graduate high school, and you think you can promise me $30 an hour? And I'm like, I don't know if I can promise you anything. And it was this difficult conversation that we had to have because I wanted him to graduate high school so bad. But he had his path was different. And I know high school, we want everybody to graduate high school. But this was an extreme case. And I said, okay, fine. If you're going to drop out, okay, then at least I want you to get as a certificate, in forklift.
Yes.
Richland College is offering that for you. It's an amazing program, and at least give me a certificate, so that you can be certified to work. And he did.
Yeah.
And then he came back and showed it to me, and he didn't graduate high school. Okay, I know that's bad. Okay, for a school counselor to say that.
Sure.
But I count that as a victory for me, because this kid was honest with me, and there were other options, and I haven't heard from him, but if you're listening out there, I hope you're doing great, buddy.
All right, give me one more. That was good.
So when I was at a different district, there was an extreme case. Again, this was on the news. There was a student, a young lady, that was in a vehicle in North Park, and she was with her boyfriend, and there was a drug deal going down. And this student her boyfriend got shot in front of her, right? And this caused all sorts of anxiety for her, right? She didn't want to come to school. She always felt unsafe. And she grieved. I helped her through her grieving. And then we started, once we rebuilt all that, we're like, well, we still got to do school, and finish. And so I helped her through kind of credit recoveries and online stuff. And she graduated, And she walked through the stage, right? And of course, as school counselors, we do this every year. And it's the best part of being a school counselor in high school is graduation.
Yeah.
It's very emotional. But it's particularly emotional if you really worked with a kid for 4 years and you got them through. They didn't just, there's two types of kids. The ones that you just get out of the way, right? And then there's the kid that you're like, if you don't get on my back, buddy, we're not getting through, right? And that one, those are the ones that really move you. And I remember she, shook her hand very politely to the superintendents and everybody. Then she looked at me and darted through the stage and gave me this huge hug. And she's crying. I got my makeup on and I'm crying. And then, it's just like, it was awesome because out of all the chances that this girl had, most likely she wouldn't have graduated high school, right? She's actually in college, about to graduate college. Her mom actually emailed me and said that she's doing great.
Yeah,
So
it fills your bucket.
sometimes you just need to give kids a chance and just continue to encourage them and challenge them. It's not gonna be easy, but you need a good cheerleader.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about exciting trends in education because we hear. Oh my goodness. All of us, folks who were in the education game and now are out of the education game, which is me, folks that are still in the education game, which is you. We hear about all these other things that are not great that we are struggling with, but there's some exciting trends in education.
Yes.
And there's some exciting things going on because there's amazing people that work in education every single day and they're doing incredible work, such admiration, for all those folks. What are you seeing right now in education that excites you? What trend is really, something that you think will help support students?
Yeah, I think we're leaning more towards project-based learning, right? So in the high school, we're starting to see partnerships with businesses and schools, right? In Highland Park, when I worked there was a big push for us to produce students who are ready, to take on the new challenges of our world, right? And so who knows those challenges? What a lot of these businesses do, right? That are willing to hire these kids eventually after college, but let's get them ready as quickly as possible. And so, STEM programs, we have programs for flight. You can get your flight certification already at the end of high school, right? You have, all these 3D printing. You have business schools already where you have to propose a business idea in front of business leaders, the real ones, where they also internships. I know that some of those are not new, but it's becoming a trend in the sense that we need to get these seniors ready, not just for college, but for the workforce as well, and develop these critical thinking skills. And that I think some of it is lacking. You'll see it in college professors where they're complaining that these kids may be academically ready, but they're not thinking. They don't have the critical thinking abilities to problem solve.
Sure.
And so I think you're starting to see a blend where communities are providing kind of innovative programs that never existed when we were in high school. Senior year was like, you went to 4 classes, you played soccer, I think, and then you had open period for 2,
Yeah, that summed it up.
And so I think what you're starting to see now is, well, we can't be wasting that. We need to get you in an internship. We need to get you exploring even before senior year. Let's start junior year in some of these. And some of these programs are like you start junior year or even sophomore year, and you're in these kind of magnet programs where you're really doing like real life stuff.
Correct. Getting certifications.
This is not just theory. We're doing practice.
Yeah.
Nursing. And so you're entering at Parkland Hospital as a junior and a senior, right? These are things that nobody even thought about it was possible.
Traditional high school didn't have those things.
No.
Yeah.
And so that's the trend. The trend is we need to have more hands-on, real-life experiences as quickly as possible so that, we can fit the demand that the workforce.
Yeah, I'm excited to have folks on the podcast that are in charge of CTE, and those type of programs in high school, and talk about all these internships and all these things you're doing in high school, starting to blend high school with the workplace and how that looks. Yes. I think that's huge. All right, so you're going to give one piece of advice to a high school kid. You get one piece. That's it. Here's the one big advice I can give you.
Okay, I wrote something down.
You wrote something down?
This is not going to be like super wise, but
that's okay.
I liked what it sounded. I said, build the habit of asking yourself not just what do I want to do, but who do I want to become, and then let that guide your choices.
Awesome. You're an education warrior, as I said in your intro, and you are. I mean, you've committed yourself, your career to education. And, I appreciate you being on today. I appreciate you sharing all your lessons learned, telling some stories, having a good time. So
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
You got it.
An honor.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Till episode 2. We'll see you soon. The opinions expressed by our guests and hosts are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views from Classroom to Campus, UWorld, or its affiliates. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please remember to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating that really helps us out. Thank you so much.